In 1984, a goofy comedy called Police Academy took the box office by storm. The movie poked fun at police training with a hilarious twist. Due to a cop shortage, the academy is forced to accept anyone and everyone. This leads to a wacky bunch of misfits. Think clumsy everyday folks instead of hardened criminals, becoming police recruits. The movie's success spawned a whopping 6 sequels and 2 spin-offs, but sadly, some of the cast members have passed away in the years since. So what happened to them? Bubba Smith as Moses Hightower. Bubba Smith was a giant, both on and off the screen. At 6'7", he dominated as a football player at Michigan State and even played in the NFL. But most people know him as Hightower, the big lovable cop from the Police Academy movies. Before acting, Bubba crushed it on the football field. College teams loved him, and the pros did too. He was the first overall pick in the draft. He even played in 2 Super Bowls, winning one with the Baltimore Colts. He started with small roles on shows like Charlie's Angels and Good Times, then landed his big break as Hightower. Even after Police Academy, he popped up in fun movies like Gremlins 2. Sadly, Bubba passed away in 2011 at 66. While the cause of death wasn't clear at first, doctors later found he had a brain disease linked to head injuries from football. Deb Lee Scott as Violet Fackler. Deb Lee Scott might not have had a Hollywood marathon, but she sure left a mark in Police Academy. She showed up as Mrs. Fackler in the first movie, then switched gears to Cadet Fackler in Part 3. That was her last Academy appearance, but elsewhere in entertainment, Scott did great. Before joining the wacky recruits, Scott scored a role in the classic film American Graffiti back in 1973. As the years rolled on, she became a much bigger TV star than a movie star. You might remember her from hilarious shows like Mary Hartman, and Forever Fernwood, or even guest spots on Welcome Back, Kotter and The Love Boat. Sadly, Deb Lee Scott passed away on April 5, 2005, just 3 days after her birthday. She was only 52 years old. Ted Ross as Captain Reed. Ted Ross was a talented actor who carved out a fulfilling career in Hollywood. He kicked things off in the late 70s, landing roles in TV shows like Sirota's Court and TV movies like Minstrel Man and Death Penalty. He even tackled the iconic role of Franklin D. Roosevelt in the miniseries FDR: The Last Year. Throughout the decade, Ted continued to land film roles. He cracked audiences up in Police Academy, reprised his role in Arthur II on the Rocks, and starred alongside Mark Harmon in Stealing Home. His final film credit came in 1991 with The Fisher King. Sadly, Ted passed away in September 2002 at the age of 68. Billy Bird as Mrs. Stanwyck Billy Bird stole the show in many funny movies and TV shows. You might remember her from the classic comedy The Odd Couple. She kept acting well into her later years, even making a guest appearance on the sitcom George and Leo with Judd Hirsch and Bob Newhart. From 1988 to 1992, she was a regular on the sitcom Dear John. Audiences loved her as a spunky older character in movies like Ernest Saves Christmas and Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol. Sadly, she passed away in 2002 at the age of 94. Jack Creeley as Mr. Bellows. Born in Chicago in 1926, Jack Creeley carved a path for himself in the world of acting. Though many may recognize him from films like Dr. Strangelove or the cult classic Videodrome, his career spanned much wider. He wasn't just a movie guy, Jack was a dedicated stage actor as well. Marrying David Smith, Jack eventually settled in Toronto, Canada. Sadly, he passed away there in 2004. But his legacy as a versatile performer lives on through the characters he brought to life, both on the big screen and the stage. Late in life, Creeley suffered 2 strokes and began to develop aphasia. He died on March 10, 2004 in Toronto. Sandy Ward as Sistrunk. Sandy Ward, a character actor who brought life to various roles on screen, was born on July 12, 1926, in Alamosa, Colorado. He left his mark in Hollywood with appearances in films like The Perfect Storm, Under Siege, and the comedic sequel Airplane 2: The Sequel. Throughout his life, he found love twice, marrying Roxanne Michael and Irene Krinsky. Sadly, Sandy passed away on March 6, 2005 in Orange County, California. David Graff as Eugene Tackleberry. David Graff might be best known for yelling, "Freeze! Police brutality!" as Tackleberry in the Police Academy movies. With over 100 acting credits, he racked up roles in everything from Star Trek Deep Space Nine to the Brady Bunch movie. Tackleberry, a war veteran with a questionable relationship with firearms, which wouldn't fly today, was Graff's claim to fame. Sadly, David Graff passed away from a heart attack in 2001 at the young age of 50. Though Tackleberry might be his most recognizable role, Graff left behind a legacy of diverse characters on both the big and small screen. George R. Robertson as Chief Henry J. Hurst. George Robertson, a familiar face to many, left a lasting mark as the stern police chief and later Commissioner Henry Hurst in the Police Academy movies. He appeared in the first 6 films of the series and even made an appearance in Police Academy, the series. But his career wasn't just about Police Academy. Fans might also recognize him from the 1980s Twilight Zone reboot, the 1990 remake of War of the Worlds, and the 1991 film JFK. Sadly, George Robertson passed away on January 29, 2023, at the age of 89, as reported by sources like The Hollywood Reporter. Tab Thaker as House. Tab Thaker's life was anything but ordinary. Born in North Carolina in 1962, his impressive size, 6'4" and 450 pounds, landed him in an unexpected place: Hollywood. Clint Eastwood himself spotted him in Time magazine and thought his stature would be perfect for the big screen. Tab transitioned from wrestling champion to actor, appearing in films like City Heat alongside Eastwood, the fun-filled Wildcats, and even a couple of the wacky Police Academy comedies. His filmography also includes Identity Crisis. Sadly, Tab passed away in Raleigh, North Carolina in 2007. He left behind a legacy of athletic achievement, a surprising film career, and a life filled with different ventures. Joyce Gordon. As Mrs. Thompson, Joyce Gordon was a familiar face on the big screen for many years. Her career kicked off in the late 70s with appearances in films like the Alan Arkin comedy Improper Channels and the action flick Police Academy starring Steve Guttenberg. The fun didn't stop there. Joyce later joined Adam Sandler in the comedy Billy Madison and even graced the screen in the television special Dreams in the Golden Country. Her most recent credit was in Crazy for Christmas. Sadly, the talented Joyce Gordon passed away in February 2020 at the age of 90. Kenneth Mars as mayor. If you love outrageous characters and booming voices, then Kenneth Mars was your guy. This actor made a career out of stealing scenes in hilarious comedies, especially those directed by Mel Brooks. Remember the insanely dramatic Nazi playwright in The Producers or the wacky Inspector Kemp in Young Frankenstein? That was all Mars. While he had a diverse filmography, it was his work in comedies and cartoons that truly captured the hearts of fans. Sadly, Kenneth Mars passed away in 2011, but his legacy of crazy characters lives on. Christopher Lee as Commandant Rakov. Christopher Lee was a famous actor for over 60 years. You might know him best as Dracula, but he played all kinds of bad guys in movies like Mummies and Evil Wizards. He fought in World War II before becoming an actor. At first it was hard because he was tall and some thought he looked different. He got his big break in the 1950s playing monsters. He often acted with his friend Peter Cushing in these movies. By the 1970s, Lee wanted to do more than just scary roles. He acted in adventure films and even a James Bond movie. Later in his career, he played villains in Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. He was even knighted by the Queen. Lee passed away in 2015, but his movies are still enjoyed by people around the world. Art Metrano. Art Metrano didn't get famous waiting tables or scoring a lucky break. This guy started out wowing crowds as the amazing Metrano on The Tonight Show. Talk about a magical entrance. Life threw him a curveball in 1989, though. Metrano took a nasty fall and fractured his spine. But this tough cookie didn't let it stop him. He recovered, turned his experience into a one-man show, super inspiring, and kept acting throughout the 80s and 90s. He even made a fun cameo in Police Academy the series, playing a renamed version of his iconic character, Mauser. Sadly, Art Metrano passed away in 2021, but his legacy as a talented and determined actor lives on. Ed Hurley as Dooley. Ed Hurley wasn't a one-trick pony. Throughout his career, he lent his voice to a ton of different projects. Early on, he popped up in shows like Kraft Television Theater and The Perry Como Show. He even got dramatic with Maximilian Schell in The Chosen. The 80s and 90s kept Hurley busy. He showed his comedic chops alongside Robert De Niro in The King of Comedy and Woody Allen in Zelig. But he wasn't afraid to get serious either, narrating documentaries like The Newsreel Era and historical dramas like Malcolm X. He even snuck a cameo into Police Academy 2. Hurley's voice also graced iconic films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and award shows like the Country Music Association Awards. His final project was NYTV by the People Who Made It in 1998. Sadly, Ed Hurley passed away in January 1999 at the age of 90. He left behind a legacy of a versatile and talented voice actor. Andrew Ruben as George Martine. Andrew Ruben started acting young, performing in skits and plays at his community center and high school. Despite an acting scholarship, college wasn't his thing, and he soon found himself at the prestigious American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. After graduation, he landed a job at NBC, but his sights were set on acting. He scored a national commercial campaign and then headed to California to chase his dream. On October 5, 2015, Ruben died of lung cancer in Los Angeles, California. Doug Lennox as main bad guy. Len Carrio's career in entertainment stretched across decades, beginning on the radio waves in 1965. His diverse filmography included everything from family-friendly fare like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show, to detective dramas like Cold Squad. But for many, Len Carrio will be remembered for his roles on the big screen. He landed parts in major films like X-Men and Police Academy, showcasing his range in both action and comedy. Despite this setback, Len Carrio continued acting, and his final credited role came in the 2009 film Deadliest Sea. Sadly, he passed away in 2015 at the age of 77. Stuart Nisbet as new anchor. Los Angeles native Stuart Nisbet hit the ground running in his acting career. By his mid-20s, he was already landing roles on classic TV shows. The 70s saw Nisbet continue to be a busy character actor, mainly on television. However, the 80s and 90s brought a bit of a slowdown, but that didn't stop him from gracing the screens of popular shows like the hilarious Golden Girls, the ever-intriguing Murder, She Wrote, and even the iconic lifeguard drama Baywatch. Nisbet died on June 23, 2016, at Verdugo Hills Hospital in Glendale, California. He was 82. George Gaines as Commandant Eric Lassard. George Gaines, the man behind the lovable Commandant Lassard, wasn't just another face in the crowd at Police Academy. Sure, Lassard could be a bit of a space cadet at times, but his passion for the academy and his cadets always shone through. But guess what? Gaines's acting chops went way beyond those wacky recruits. Born in Helsinki, Finland, Gaines served his time in the Royal Netherlands Navy during World War II before setting sail for the U.S. to chase his acting dreams. He started out on the stage, but it wasn't long before he was lighting up the small screen. Early on, you might have caught him in shows like NBC Television Opera Theater, Bonanza, and Columbo. He even showed his range on the big screen, appearing in movies like Tootsie and the not-so-fantastic Fantastic Four flick from 1994. Gaines kept acting well into his golden years, with his last hurrah coming in the 2003 movie Just Married. Sadly, in 2016, the curtain closed on a long and successful career at the age of 98. Darwin Swalve as Ox. Darwin Swalve, or Dar to his friends, started out chasing his dream of the big stage in community theater. His agent, Keith Wolf, must have seen the star potential because he connected Dar with Morgan Paul, an agent with connections in both theater and film. That connection paid off big time when Dar landed a role in the award-winning Broadway show City of Angels. He wasn't just on Broadway for 6 months at the Shubert Theater, he even got to tour with the show for a year. Sadly, Darwin passed away from a heart attack in May 1999. Alan Ann Mclary as Irina Petrovskaya. Canadian-born Alan Ann Mclary wowed audiences on Broadway in her early 20s. She then transitioned to Hollywood in the 50s, starring in musicals alongside greats like Ray Bolger. After a break, she returned to the spotlight in the late 60s and became a character actor everyone recognized. Mclary graced the screens of popular shows like Cannon and The Waltons, even sharing scenes with Robert Redford in several films. Her comedic timing shone on The Tony Randall Show, and she later stole hearts on WKRP in Cincinnati and The Days and Nights of Molly Dodd. Mclary retired from acting in the early 90s, leaving behind a legacy of unforgettable characters on both stage and screen. She passed away in 2018. Marian Ramsay as Laverne Hooks. Marian Ramsay wasn't messing around in the Police Academy movies. She showed up for duty in 6 out of 7 films as Officer Laverne Hooks. While she didn't return for Moscow or the TV series, no worries there. Before sirens and flashing lights, Ramsay started on the bright lights of Broadway. Then, she zoomed onto TV in The Jeffersons and kept rolling with appearances in classic shows like Days of Our Lives and The Nanny. Sadly, in 2021, the news came out that Marian Ramsay passed away at the age of 73. She'll be remembered for her talent and for keeping busy doing what she loved. Diana Bellamy as Nurse. Diana Bellamy, a beloved character actress known for her warmth and versatility, was born on September 19, 1943 in Los Angeles. After earning her master's degree in fine arts from Southern Methodist University in 1970, she dived headfirst into acting. Bellamy spent 3 seasons performing at the prestigious Oregon Shakespeare Festival and brought characters to life in productions like Sister Mary Ignatius Explains It All for You, The House of Blue Leaves, and The Skin of Our Teeth. Sadly, Diana passed away on June 17, 2001, at her home in Valley Village, California, at the age of 57. Renee Oona as Tony. Renee Oona was a versatile actor who shone on both stage and screen. He started on Broadway, winning a Tony Award alongside Katharine Hepburn. Oona later became a familiar face on TV, with roles in shows like Benson and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. In Deep Space Nine, he brought complexity to the character of Odo, an alien security chief, using just his voice and eyes. Auberjonois also appeared in many films, including Altman movies like MASH and McCabe and Mrs. Miller. He lent his voice to animated characters like Chef Louis in The Little Mermaid. Auberjonois continued to act until his death in 2019 at the age of 79. He left behind a legacy of entertaining performances across various mediums. James Hampton as Mayor Thompson. A dedicated actor, Hampton honed his skills in New York, Los Angeles, and even his hometown of Texas. He even shared the stage with his future buddy Burt Reynolds in off-Broadway plays. Hampton started his career with a bang, landing a role on the classic Western Gunsmoke just a year after his film debut. But it was his turn as the bugler Dobbs on F Troop that truly made him a pop culture icon. He continued to be a familiar face on TV, but his film roles showcased his versatility. From the thrilling The China Syndrome to the goofy fun of Teen Wolf, where he played Michael J. Fox's dad, Hampton brought his unique charm to every character. This talented guy wasn't just happy in front of the camera. He also tried his hand at writing and directing, even working on the sitcom Evening Shade, which starred his old friend Burt Reynolds. James Hampton left an impressive mark as a character actor who brought warmth and humor to countless roles. He passed away in 2021 at the age of 84. Howard Hessman as Pete Lassard. A fixture on the improv comedy scene of the 1960s, Howard Hessman burst into the mainstream with his roguish Dr. Johnny Fever on the celebrated 1980s sitcom WKRP in Cincinnati. The eccentric DJ character, which earned him 2 Emmy nominations, was the high watermark of a decade of work in features and on television prior to the role, and a decade as a member of the San Francisco-based comedy troupe The Committee prior to that. Success in that venue proved elusive for Hessman, but he worked steadily on television for years following his sitcom tenures, and his comic skills made him a reliable and well-regarded character actor. He died from complications of colorectal surgery in Los Angeles, California, on January 29, 2022, at age 81. Ed Nelson as Governor Nielsen. Ed Nelson started out in Hollywood like many character actors of his time, working with the legendary B-movie king Roger Corman. Remember cheesy drive-in classics like Attack of the Crab Monsters or Invasion of the Saucer Men? Ed was in those. He even rocked out in the musical Rock All Night. Nelson quickly moved up in Corman's low-budget world, landing co-starring roles. Some of these movies, like the creepy Night of the Blood Beast, later lampooned on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and the satirical A Bucket of Blood, considered one of Corman's best, became cult favorites. The 50s saw Ed become a regular on television, popping up in guest roles on various shows. But his big break came in 1964 with the role of Dr. Michael Rossi on Peyton Place, the first successful nighttime soap opera. He played the kind doctor for the show's entire 5-year run, one of the few actors to stick with it the whole way. After Peyton Place, Ed went back to what he did best, playing memorable authority figures in TV movies and shows. He even landed a villainous role in the family film For the Love of Benji, 1977. He continued to act in both film and television well into the 2000s. Sadly, Ed Nelson passed away in 2014 at the age of 85. But his career, filled with everything from B-movie monsters to beloved doctors, left a lasting impression. So that's it, everyone. Gone, but not forgotten. These police officers left a mark. Share your favorite memories in the comments. See you next time.